Hey everybody, what's up? Ehren here, Question Period Canada. How are you today? It's the weekend, it's Friday evening here in Nova Scotia. It was a warmer day today, so that's kind of nice. The house even warmed up just from the sun, so that was great. Tonight we're going to be getting into a Senate question period. These are super interesting, they flow so smoothly. And we'll be getting into that in just a moment. But I worked on a video today. It's a bit of a promotional video for my channel. It shows some of my shorts that maybe these live viewers would never catch. But we're going to jump into that and take a peek at what that video is all about. Hey friends, what's up? Ehren here, Question Period Canada. Welcome to the channel. How are you today? We're having a lot of fun here with Canadian politics, bringing you information, entertainment, and just having fun with Canadian politics. We make many different formats. Some of those formats, though, are in shorts, which you have to go to a special spot on YouTube. So we're bringing you some of the most popular videos that we've made, shorts, into one regular YouTube video. Please check it out. I think you'll like them. They're kind of fun. Ehren, Question Period Canada. Question for you, Pierre. What do you think about this new House Speaker? His set of rules, the way he plays?
If I'm Mr. Speaker, if I may, this is the first time in all of my years here that I have seen a speaker interrupt question period to make a speech. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. And I furthermore, the fact that you've risen to your feet in order to impose apparently a series of guidelines that are not approved by the Board of the Internal Economy or voted on by the House of Commons, and that you're doing it in violation of one of the existing rules that is already in place, suggests a very serious and unusual departure from the normal way in which Parliament exists.
So what did you think? Like and subscribe. We've got lots of videos coming. Old Pierre lit him up right there, went really hard at the new Mr. Speaker, trying to put him in his place. Up next, Stephanie Kusi is looking for the insiders that got rich. Well, do you know Stephanie Kusi? She flips out, she points the finger. Let's check.
New information revealed today shows that ArriveCan contractors submitted receipts to the government for a company that doesn't even exist. Wow. This investigation already includes allegations of identity theft, forged resumes, contractual theft, fraudulent billing, price fixing, and collusion in the creation of the $54 million ArriveCan app. How much worse can this boondoggle get? Simple question, which Liberal insiders got rich?
Who got rich?
Yeah, Stephanie Kusi's something else. She's on fire. Like, subscribe, we've got lots coming. Kusi's really funny, she's a wild woman. Up next though, we'll start teasing the Liberals. They're easy to make fun of, here we go. You can't have heroes without having villains. Chrystia Freeland is the villain in this situation. She's like a witch.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell you who is missing in action when it comes to protecting Canadians and their affordability. And I'm talking about the affordability of life for our seniors. You know who's missing in action? The Conservative leader. It took him 29 days to speak up for the Canada Pension Plan. But none of us should have been surprised, because last year he sought to eviscerate that plan, which is so important to every single Canadian, by seeking to freeze contributions. We can't trust Conservatives with our pensions or anything else.
We're just having fun at Chrystia Freeland's expense. That Sour Patch face like it sucked a lemon, that voice, she's a witch. Like and subscribe. Canadian politics, we're having fun here. A little bit of fun at Chrystia's expense sounds good to me. Let's do it again. Hey Chrystia, can you explain it to me like I'm 5 years old in a terrible voice with a face that looks like it just sucked a lemon?
Mr. Speaker, let me again bring some independent, non-partisan facts to this conversation. It is the job of the ratings agencies to determine the fiscal sustainability of every country's fiscal position. And ratings agencies have reaffirmed Canada's AAA rating. And you know why they did that, Mr. Speaker? Because we have the lowest deficit in the G7. And because, Mr. Speaker, we have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We believe in fiscal responsibility, Mr. Speaker, and the numbers show it.
Imagine the poor lemon. Like and subscribe, we've got lots coming. Up next, we take some shots at Trudeau. He's an easy target, right? Hey Trudeau, I can no longer afford my house. Explain. Tell me what you're gonna do.
Mr. Speaker, we know we need to build more rental constructions more quickly. And that's why we put forward a bill that removes the GST from new rental constructions across the country and on the federal side. And that is actually spurring thousands of new units to be built across the country. It's a very exciting measure, except unfortunately, Conservatives have chosen to obstruct debate on that particular measure. Why won't they line up with Canadians? Why don't they see that building housing supply is going to help Canadians right across the country? Why won't they line up with us and support Canadians across the country?
We needed a courtesy flush with that one. Like and subscribe, we've got lots of videos. Since Trudeau is hard to find these days, the last video is going to be Pierre-Poilievre letting Canadians know he is right there for them, while Trudeau is hard to find. Let's take a peek. So Trudeau doesn't come to question period anymore. Poilievre calls him out right here, hiding and dividing Canadians.
I'm right here while the Prime Minister hides and divides. And why wouldn't he hide? After all, he's in panic mode. He first promised to quadruple the tax on everyone, and then after I beat him in that debate, he decided to back down and lift the tax off 3% of people for a short period of time. His Rural Affairs Minister said that if other Canadians wanted the same pause from the pain, they needed to elect more Liberals. Well, Thunder Bay elected 2 Liberals. It's a very cold place. Will the members for Thunder Bay be given a free vote on our motion to take the tax off and keep the heat on?
Why doesn't Trudeau come to question period anymore? Guess he's feeling the pressure. Like and subscribe, Canadian Politics. We'll be following up. Catch you next time. These are some examples of the shorts we make. We've got hundreds of them. You can check the library. We're having fun with Canadian politics here. We do live broadcasts of the Canadian Senate question periods, the Canadian Parliament question periods. It's a lot of fun. We make other videos too. We're just getting going here, learning about Canadian politics, making it entertaining, bringing you the information. So like and subscribe. Ehren here, Question Period Canada. Check out the other videos. We'll be back with more. Yeah. So that's a little promo video. I don't even know if it's a promo video. It's the stuff that I'm doing. Some people might not see the shorts. I know a lot of people do, but not people that watch the live videos. So we are going to jump right into the Senate as promised. That's what we're doing here. It's a different pace than Parliament. Like, these guys are, men and women, are refined. They're career politicians, most of them. And again, it's politics, so there's lots of dishonesty and dodging, but they're more subtle. It's nuanced. It's super interesting. So we're going to jump into
question period.
Right
Période de questions. Senator Platt.
Get her going.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Here we go.
Senator Gold, on Tuesday, news outlets worldwide repeated a claim by Hamas that Israel had attacked a hospital in Gaza, killing innocent civilians. The rush to judgment that followed the CBC included Prime Minister Trudeau. He said both in the House and outside to reporters that the strike was unacceptable, illegal, and international law must be upheld. The timing of these comments implied he believed Israel was responsible, a story spread by a group our country officially recognizes as terrorists. Prime Minister Trudeau is simply not worth the cost to Canada's reputation. Is it too much to expect him to show a common sense leader and speak with sober second thought, especially at such a dangerous time as this?
I still don't know what the PM's stance really is on
Thank
that
you for your question.
situation.
Regardless of who launched an attack on a hospital, we would all agree that the bombing of a hospital is a deplorable, shameful crime against humanity and an act to be condemned. And even if the bombed was accidental. It is still one that tears our heart out, and our hearts and compassion goes out to all of the victims and their families. The Prime Minister did not attribute responsibility. He reacted as all human beings would with this, in the face of this horrible, horrible circumstance. The Prime Minister is clear and states so, I believe, today, that he is working with his allies to determine exactly what happened. And when that becomes clear to the satisfaction of the Prime Minister, he will so announce.
This is the first time that
Senator
Mark Gold
Platt.
has made me upset because his answer was so
implication
big.
very
That was such
clear,
a terrible
very
answer.
clear, Senator Gold. And it wasn't just Prime Minister Trudeau that did it. Minister Joly did it as well. They both are not worth the cost. Tuesday night, just down the street, people leaving an anti-Semitism conference were told to exit through the back door for their safety due to angry protesters outside. That's the context in which the Prime Minister used such poor judgment. After 8 long years, he has no common sense and provides no serious leadership. Isn't this a time when it requires both?
Platt is great.
Senator Gold?
He asks great questions.
I was at that conference. Sadly, it was not the first time that I had to be escorted out of a public event for fear of the violence of protesters. It occurred in Hamilton when convoy protesters barricaded us within a meeting, and we had to be escorted for our life. This is a deplorable situation, and the Prime Minister did the right thing by condemning the damage and harm that was done.
Senator MacDonald.
We're going to have an emergency act.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Gold, next month Canadians and veterans will gather on Remembrance Day to honor those who served in war, with particular emphasis on those who made the eternal sacrifice in the defense of freedom for this country. And I'm always reminded of John McCrae's great poem, In Flanders Fields. There's 3 stanzas in that poem, and the third and most evocative stanza has 6 lines. The last 5 which read, "To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field." Now, the Government of Canada that you represent has declared these prayers to be forbidden at Remembrance Day ceremonies. But we give the Senate, in the Senate, every day start with prayers. Why are prayers okay for living senators, but not okay for our war dead?
Hear, hear.
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you. Once again, I would ask senators, when they ask questions, to make sure that their factual assumptions are correct. It does dishonor to this chamber and to the veterans. The answer is simply that there was no banning of prayers. The answer is that it is misrepresenting to say there were no banning of prayers. The directive simply said that whether it's prayers or symbols, be inclusive of diversity, religious and otherwise, in this country. I would ask honourable members, who can hold me to account as is your right, and it's my duty and privilege to respond, to at least not be misleading in the factual assumptions. I have 1 minute to answer, and I'm answering it now clearly. And I would like to also not be heckled when I'm answering previous questions. Thank you,
Holy
colleagues.
moly, he's wound up. Wow,
Senator
that one hit him. That's the most wound up I've ever seen anybody in the Senate ever. This is
Senator
a
MacDonald.
crazy
Senator
episode.
Gold, the first line of that third stanza reads, "Take up our quarrel with the foe." Honourable senators, I never thought I'd see the day when the foe would be the Government of Canada.
Hear, hear.
Holy
Since
cow,
you
these
represent
guys
the
are
government in this place,
swinging hard.
can you please tell this chamber if you support this directive of the government? And tell Canadians if you support this directive of the government.
Just say no. If it's not the case.
Let me ask senators whether they support the following directive. I'm answering the question. Well, I used a religious term, God, and I hope I did not offend those who do not believe. The directive says chaplains shall endeavor to ensure that all feel included and able to participate in the reflection, no matter their beliefs. I would be astounded if anyone here objected to that respectful and inclusive directive, given the diversity in this country that we all celebrate.
Wow, this is the most heated Mark Gold's maybe ever been.
Senator Méville-Deschênes.
Wow.
Senator Gold.
They keep coming at him.
Senator Gold, as you know, Meta blocked hyperlinks to news on its platform, and Google recently reiterated its intention to do the same when Bill C-18 comes into force at the end of December. Our media are suffering as a result of these decisions. They're less visible and have lost up to half their users, and many are very concerned about the apparent impasse between the government and Google over Bill C-18 on online news. The News Media Coalition, in particular, has done an about-face and is now asking the Minister of Heritage to accept some of Google's demands as part of the final regulations to be adopted. For its part, Google considers that the fundamental problems lie in the law itself. My question: is the government prepared to amend Bill C-18 in order to find a solution to the current impasse? Senator Gold, thank you for the question. The decisions you highlighted are regrettable, but I have been assured that the Government of Canada will continue to work with them within the regulatory framework. Fundamentally, the Online Information Act is a negotiation that brings news platforms to the table. Canada needs a strong, free press. That is a pillar of our democracy, and Canada expects big media companies to respect this, and we are facing this at the same time as many other countries who are also seeking legislation to examine freedom of the press. The government will examine all proposals received, and I am reassured that we will continue to work in this direction. Senator Miville-Deschênes.
He's calming down a little bit. That was an easier
I'll remind
question.
you that Europe has reached a compromise with Google, but here, if no compromise is reached soon and Google carries out its threat,
this is an
I
issue.
hope it won't, Canadian media will be hit very hard.
This is happening.
Does the government have any plans for dealing with this rapidly approaching eventuality? Senator Gold.
I don't think that they do. Their plan is just to roll over.
I have been taught not to negotiate in public. There are regulatory processes in course and discussions as well. We're in contact, the government remains in contact with the stakeholders, and updates will be made available in the time.
My question is for the government representative in the Senate. Senator Gold, in Budget 2023, the government committed to introducing tax changes that would take effect in 2024 to facilitate the creation of employee ownership trusts. I am a strong supporter of EOTs, as they would provide business owners an alternative succession option that would allow employees to share in the success of their work. We know that 76% of Canada's business owners plan to exit their business within the next decade, and only 1 in 10 have a formal succession plan in place. The timing for EOTs is now. Senator Gold, can you assure us that this remains a top priority, and when might we expect the government's legislative proposal?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. Senator, you're absolutely right. Employee ownership trusts have a number of benefits. They enable employees to share in the success of their work. They support participation in business decisions, and they allow workers to receive their share of the profits. Budget 2022 announced the government's commitment to create these trusts while consulting, as properly they should, with stakeholders to address remaining barriers. And Budget 2023 proposed to introduce tax changes to facilitate the creation of these trusts. The government has consulted with stakeholders to see how to best to enhance employee rights and to enhance their participation in the governance of employee ownership trusts, and we'll have more to say in due course.
Senator Lefebvre.
Thank you, Senator Gold, for that
down.
answer.
I wonder if that'll
fiscal responsibility is key, but I continue to believe that the government needs to give serious consideration to including tax incentives for business owners to embrace EOTs. Senator Gold, can you commit to sharing my views with the government and encourage them to make tax incentives part of their upcoming legislative proposal? Otherwise, I'm afraid the take-up rate will be minimal, and the policy won't achieve its intended objective.
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. It would be my great pleasure to communicate your suggestions to the Minister.
Senator Patterson Nunavut.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Gold, in June of 2022, then Defence Minister Anita Anand announced $38.6 billion to modernize NORAD. The funding is meant to be spent over 20 years and focused on modernizing our surveillance systems, the technology we use, and our air weapon systems, while also investing in new infrastructure and support capabilities, as well as science and technology aimed at future-proofing our capabilities to defend North America. The President of the U.S. and Prime Minister Trudeau released a joint statement on March 24, 2023, stating, "Our highest priority is to protect our citizens and our sovereign territory. We will invest in the modernization of NORAD." They specifically agreed to accelerate the procurement of the over-horizon to radar to 2028 and Canadian investment in Arctic infrastructure to support the arrival of the first F-35 aircraft in Canada. Senator, can you give this chamber an update on the contracts for specific investments?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question. It's an important one. Thank you for underlining the historic investment that the government made in 2022 to modernize NORAD capabilities. I'm not sure that the minister that we had in question period wouldn't even be in an even better position to answer your question, and I will do my best, notwithstanding that. It's my understanding that the government has already released the timelines for all 19 projects that are proceeding under this plan. And my understanding as well is that the majority of these projects have reached initial operational capability over the next decade. I have no further information at this juncture, Senator.
He was freaking out so much earlier. I'm going to do a story about
Senator
that.
Gold, the Auditor General's 2022 report to Parliament on Arctic water surveillance included a recommendation to address delays in the delivery of equipment to replace and improve the key federal capabilities used for maritime surveillance in the Canadian Arctic, and the risk that several types of equipment may cease operating before being replaced. In March 23, a statement by Public Services Procurement Canada stated that the P-8 Poseidon has been identified as the only currently available aircraft that meets all of the Canadian multi-mission aircraft operational requirements.
Senator Patterson, Senator Gold.
Oh, cut him off. Cut him off. Madam Speaker.
I'm not sure I know fully what the question is. I do know that it is true that the P-8A Poseidon is the only readily available military off-the-shelf capability. However, there has not been a final decision yet, and the issuance of a letter of request itself does not commit Canada. The decision to accept or decline the offer detailed in the letter of acceptance will be based on the capability, the offered in the matter, availability, pricing, and the benefits.
Gold. Sorry. Senator Gignac.
Senator Gignac, thank you. Senator Gold, I'd like to talk about fiscal discipline.
Looks like a politician.
Experts agree that your government did the right thing at the start of the pandemic by injecting hundreds of millions into the economy to prevent a depression. However, these same experts also believe that this was made possible by the fiscal discipline exercised by previous governments, resulting in a debt-to-GDP ratio of around 30% and a AAA credit rating. At the beginning of this summer, the IMF published its report recommending that the government adopt fiscal anchors, stressing that good intentions to reduce the deficit over the long term were not enough. Senator Gold, the government will be presenting its fall economic statement in the coming weeks. Does the finance minister intend to heed the IMF's recommendations? Senator Gold. It will certainly take the recommendations from reliable sources into account. The government's economic plan continues to establish a balance between supporting Canadians and the necessity of investing in our economic future. And the government will continue to do so in a responsibly fiscal way. The International Monetary Foundation and the OECD believe that Canada will have the strongest economic growth in 2024 of all G7 countries. Canada will continue to support vulnerable Canadians by strengthening the healthcare system and by investing in the future prosperity of Canada while ensuring that its fiscal policy remains viable in the long term. Canada has the most restrictive monetary policy in the G7, according to National Bank economists. In his most recent testimony before the Banking Committee, former Bank of Canada Governor David Dodge mentioned that it would be useful for the government to adopt fiscal anchors to assist monetary policy. Can you reassure this House that your government will submit a responsible fiscal framework before going ahead with the NDP's grocery list of future expenditures? Senator Gold, thank you for the question. I'll repeat.
He's asking great questions.
That in the coming weeks and coming months, the government can be expected to issue an interim report, and I'm very confident that it will be prudent and fiscally responsible.
My question is for the Leader of the Government in the Senate. Modifying the Tobacco Act to include vaping in 2018 was said to be to protect the health and safety of Canadians, with the objective to reduce smoking in Canada to a prevalence of 5% and reduce smoking and nicotine addiction among young people. This legislation was passed with very little supporting scientific evidence. The promise by the government was that the legislation would be updated as the science became available. We now have the data and scientific evidence at our disposal. We know that vaping is not a successful smoking cessation tool, that vaping is a gateway to youth cigarette smoking, and that vaping liquids are toxic. When will the legislation be updated in accordance with the data?
Senator Gold.
Do you guys know any people that vape?
Well, thank you for your question and for your continuing work on this file and leadership in bringing these matters to our attention, as you did as a critic, if I recall, so well, and as you continue to do to your credit.
Giving her compliments.
As evidence accumulates, the government will continue to evaluate the implications of that evidence for whatever changes, amendments, whether to legislation, to regulations, or other policy directives. I am not aware of the status of those deliberations, much less where they will lead, but as soon as more information is available, I will certainly be pleased to share it in this chamber, as I know the government will be sharing it with Canadian people.
Senator Seidman.
Thank you. We would all appreciate that, I'm sure. Despite the 2021 consultation, which there was, we have yet to ban vaping flavors, which are said to be most appealing to youth. Senator Gold, of Canada's 13 provincial and territorial governments, 6 have adopted legislation or regulations to ban the sale of vaping flavors other than tobacco. When does the federal government plan to ban flavors in vaping products?
Senator Gold.
Thank you. I do not know, and I'm not in a position to predict what the government's plan is. As you point out, provinces acting within their jurisdiction have taken that step, and I think the evidence that will accrue over time with that experience would and certainly should inform decisions made at the national level.
Senator Boisvenu.
Senator Boisvenu. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Gold. Last Monday, the media told us that in light of record seizures of drugs, cell phones, and handmade weapons worth $70 million, it is obvious that rehabilitation of prisoners is not a priority for your government. This was at the Cowansville Institution. Why is it that your government spent so much money buying back weapons from hunters, but has not concentrated on safety in penal institutions? Senator Gold, thank you for the question and the challenges. that Correctional Service of Canada faces, as well as police services. The industry of contraband and weapons trafficking, other trafficking in our prisons is a genuine problem. It's difficult for Bill C-21 to respond to all the problems. Luckily, this bill will be studied as of next week, and we senators will be able to follow this work and the questions that surrounding it in the coming weeks. Senator Boisvenu.
Senator Boisvenu has to retire by the age of 75. He must be getting close. Interesting questions.
Have come into penitentiaries because of drones for 8 years now. Right. The union representing penitentiary workers has been asking for updated, modern technology to fight these drones, and this has not happened. Why is it that your government will be spending $1 billion in a legal weapon buyback when in penitentiaries you have not invested a single cent in the last 8 years to control illegal weapons?
That
Senator Gold
asks good questions.
I'm not denying the problem that you've described currently occurring in penitentiaries. However, I would emphasize the importance of Bill C-21, importance of ensuring that weapons used uniquely to kill people are better controlled.
In the words of U.S. Senator Hiram Johnson, quote, "The first casualty when war comes is truth," end quote. In this post-truth age and with the pernicious impact of social media in spreading disinformation, making sure that our leaders have factually correct information before making public statements is vitally important. How is Canada ensuring that our leaders have valid, independently verified, and fully fact-checked information to inform their public announcements?
He's sedated. He's on a medication.
Thank you for your question.
Pretty low-key, that guy.
Look, disinformation is a problem in our society. It undermines peace, prosperity, our individual freedoms. It erodes trust in democracy and reinforces polarizing viewpoints that are used not for the common good. Especially in time of crisis, disinformation is dangerous and harmful. The Government of Canada works in close collaboration with its allies, and it shares pertinent intelligence to counter the global threats. It has also established the Strategic Coordination Centre on Information Sharing to help support timely, effective, and responsible sharing of such information between institutions of this government. The government is taking steps and considering steps to counter state-sponsored disinformation in Canada. It's created a dedicated team to help increase Canada's capacity to understand, monitor, and detect information. And decisions will continue to be based on the best interest of Canadians.
That's interesting for a politician to be discussing dis and misinformation.
Given the rampant disinformation being shared widely on social media during this Israel-Hamas war, and indeed of other wars such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Canadians need to have access to valid and fully fact-checked information in a timely and trusted way. What plans does Canada have to ensure that Canadians can have this kind of access, and when will that happen?
Senator Gold.
Well, in a free and democratic society, there are serious limits to what the government can or should even attempt to do to guarantee so-called truth information. We rely upon citizens and others. The Government of Canada works with its international partners, including NATO, G7 Rapid Response Mechanism, Multi-Freedom Coalition, Freedom Online Coalition, to share accurate information. That's on the supply side, and is working with its international partners and partners here to detect, correct, and call out disinformation, whatever its source.
Sénatrice Petitclerc.
Getting heated again a little bit more.
La Présidente,
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On October 3rd, in response to Senator Plett, you told us that it is the wish of the government you represent that the Senate becomes more modern and less partisan. The following can also be read on your website, and I quote, "The GRO shepherds government legislation through the upper chamber, ensuring that it is thoroughly and efficiently reviewed. A major focus of the GRO is to support the Senate modernization by advocating for a more independent, accountable, responsible, and transparent Senate, one that conducts its deliberation in a less partisan manner." End of quote. Senator Gold, can you tell us if you consider your government to be well on its way to achieve its goal of a modernized Senate, and if this part of your mandate is nearing completion?
Senator Gold.
Interesting question.
We have taken, thank you for your question. It's an important question. Truth is, we've taken some steps, both in the Senate internally and through legislation, to take a step towards a less partisan Senate, but importantly, one that reflects the reality now that there are groups in the Senate that are not affiliated with political parties. But we are not so far along that there is not much more work to do. We have been on record, both in the Rules Committee and in other forums, to argue that it is important that our rules of the Senate now be brought into line with the Parliament of Canada Act that was passed and that governs and structures our deliberations and our activities here. And that's a job that's not finished yet. In addition, I would hope, whether it's in my time or others, that more steps are taken to make this a more efficient, inclusive, family-friendly environment for all of us to work.
Thank you. Sénatrice Petitclerc, pas d'autres questions?
Any more questions, Senator Petitclerc? No?
Senator Gold, as it is Autism Awareness Month, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about your government's progress on its legal obligations under S203, which received royal assent earlier this year. While this legislation was intentionally non-prescriptive to ensure the government and stakeholders, including autistics themselves, were the ultimate authority on what the framework should look like, to that end, the legislation requires that the ministry to convene a meeting with stakeholders and provincial counterparts within a year. And of course, that's in the law. It's an important part of the legislation because it does ensure the autistic Canadians are not left out of drafting this framework. So, Senator Gold, can you please tell us where the government, specifically the Ministry of Health, is on this issue, and when will they be convening the conference? It is, of course, of interest to everybody in this chamber.
Surprised that's his first question.
Thank you. I'm certainly going to make inquiries about the progress, but I want to take the opportunity first to congratulate you on the work you've done now for decades in support of this important initiatives, and indeed as well to add my voice, if I could, if it's not inappropriate, to the Giant Steps program that you alluded to, with which I and my family are very familiar. This is it's an important question. It's an important first step. Necessary, but only first step towards providing resources, help, and support for the community of those in the autistic community, so they can both live a fruitful and productive life, and indeed contribute and benefit us with what they have to offer. So, thank you for the question.
Senator Housakos.
As I mentioned, Senator Gold, of course the legislation is non-prescriptive. We don't want to handcuff the government, but there are measures in terms of putting the framework together. And I guess what I really want to ask on behalf of this chamber is a gentle and a polite reminder to the minister that there is a timeline. The time is ticking. The bill was unanimously supported in the chamber and in the House. And we're going to follow this closely and make sure that they do follow the guidelines of the bill.
Senator Gold.
Really, you should. Of course, I'm always gentle and polite with ministers, especially those with whom I've had the privilege of working for many years. The current Minister of Health, the former House Leader, and I have a good relationship. I'd be very pleased to mention this to him in the next occasion.
Time for question period has expired. Alors, le temps pour la période.
That wraps up the episode of Question Period. I think, though, what we might do right here is send us out on one of my other videos, just because maybe you haven't seen some of the other things that I've been doing. We've got some pretty fun things that we've made, and we're going to take a quick peek and send you out on one of those. Let's find which one we're going to run here. Where is it? We'll go with everybody. What's up? Enjoy,
Ehren,
guys.
Question
It's
period,
been
Canada.
Ehren. How are you today? Great episode coming up. It's the coalition is breaking down. There's been so many coalitions. Now there's a new. Sorry, that wasn't smooth. Thank you for watching the Senate question period. That was very interesting. Gold flipped out there early on. I'm going to do a story on that. I think that is interesting. But yeah, what we're going to do here is send you out on one of my videos that has been pretty popular. Maybe you haven't seen it. It's a fun piece on the coalition breaking down. Yeah, so this will be the end of it. Check this video out. I know that you'll like it. It's been popular. That's it. Thank you all very much for watching.
Ehren here. Question period,
Canada. How are you today? Great episode coming up. It's the coalition is breaking down. There's been so many coalitions. Now there's the new Bloc Québécois coalition with the Liberals. The initial coalition with the NDP, it's breaking down though. Jagmeet goes at Trudeau pretty hard. Trudeau responds. Jagmeet goes again. Trudeau responds. Then Poilievre steps in, makes fun of the whole thing, the coalition between the NDP and the Liberals, and he sets Trudeau off. Trudeau loses it. It's fun at the end. Let's take a peek at how Jagmeet goes at Trudeau first. Let's take a look.
South. The Liberal and Conservative corporate coalition may strike again today. We put forward a plan to help Canadians with their home heating bill, to help Canadians tackle the climate crisis and make big oil and gas pay for it. Now, environmental organizations are on board, but climate delay Liberals and climate deny Conservatives will back the profits of big oil again. So how can the Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservative Party justify voting against this?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it was with confusion and consternation that I noted the way the NDP voted with the Conservatives against one of the most successful measures Canada has ever seen in the fight against climate change. Putting a price on pollution is exactly how we've managed to bend the curve on our emissions faster than other G7 countries over the past 2 years. How we are moving forward with global leadership on the fight against climate change. Seeing the NDP vote with the Conservatives against a price on pollution is something that has disappointed millions of progressives across this country.
That right there is one of the issues that I have with the coalition government. How can they be having these lovers' quarrels, strange political bedfellow coalition? It doesn't make any sense, and now they're spatting. It's embarrassing. It happens again, though. Jagmeet asks Trudeau more questions.
Burnaby South. People are struggling to find a home they can afford. And this federal government has the power, the land, and the resources to end the housing crisis. On one side, we've got the corporate-controlled Conservatives that want to sell off our public land to their rich investor friends that helps no one. But on the other side, we've got Liberals who are openly admitting that their plan is to use public lands to build luxury homes. How can this Prime Minister justify using public lands to build homes that people can't afford?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that's simply not true. We know Canadians are worried about paying their rent, finding an apartment, or buying a home. That's why we're working on affordable housing and affordable housing affordability right across the country. It's why we put forward the Affordable Housing and Groceries Act, which helps build more affordable apartments by cutting the GST on construction. Housing advocates and developers have described this move as a game changer that will get more affordable housing built. It's why it's essential that all members work with us to move these important measures forward.
Politics makes for strange bedfellows, doesn't it? I don't understand what is going on with these coalition governments, how they can do it. You're supposed to stand up for your party, not get together with the other parties. I don't understand. It's just weird, isn't it? Trudeau doesn't like the pressure that Jagmeet's putting on him, but Poilievre is going to make fun of that and then deliver another question, and Trudeau completely loses it, flips out, doesn't answer the question, but gives some speech, and it doesn't feel like it fits. I'm concerned about our leadership in the country. Look for yourself. I think you'll be concerned too. It's kind of funny, but like, that's our leader.
Then I have Chef.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Most tragic and heartbreaking to see these two squabbling in this way. The Prime Minister was so disappointed in the NDP leader's flip-flop on carbon tax for heat, but the good news for the Prime Minister is the NDP leader has flip-flopped on his flip-flop and now supports the Prime Minister's plan to quadruple the tax.
So he makes fun of them right there, as you saw. It's pretty funny, but then asks this question and Trudeau goes off. It has nothing to do with the question that was asked, the answer he gives. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of scary to see that our leader is behaving like this. Answer a question, buddy. Don't flip out.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister only divides to distract. That's all he ever does when he gets into trouble. He divides people along every possible battle line. He did that with the carbon tax carve-out for only some in a region where his support is plummeting and his caucus is revolting. And for 10 days, he refused to condemn the comments of his own Liberal minister who said this policy was applying based on how people voted. And now he signs on with the separatists to divide Canadians again. Will he, instead of dividing Canadians, reverse the policies that are driving them to the food bank?
I will admit that I wouldn't like being asked a question with that many insults in it, because Poilievre layers on the insults. But this answer that Trudeau gives right now, it makes no sense. He's talking about the transgender community and women's rights over their bodies. He was asking a question about food banks. Watch.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see the Conservatives' approach to partisan politics and to personal attacks. The reality is, when we stood with the 80 to 90% of Canadians who chose to get vaccinated, they called us divisive. When we chose to stand with women across this country who want to control their own bodies, they called us divisive. When we stand with the 2 LGBTQI+ kids who are being discriminated against in schools across this country, they call us divisive, Mr. Speaker. I ask Canadians, who are dividing Canadians more than Conservatives with their attacks, with their choices, with their politics?
Okay, everybody, that's about where the video wraps up. Trudeau loses it about a question about food banks, talking about transgender issues and women's rights over their bodies. It's delusional. I'm a little concerned, but it's entertaining to watch at the same time. I do think this coalition government is going down. Trudeau is cracking under the pressure. Right now, the video is kind of over, but if you would like to have one more laugh or gaffe at Trudeau, I'm going to throw a filter on him here and listen to the same speech. It's just funny to see this. He kind of looks like this to me now when I see him in my mind. I'm Ehren. Like and subscribe. Question Period Canada. We're having fun with Canadian politics, trying to keep up on what is happening while having a good time. So if that appeals to you, like and subscribe. Follow us. We're doing great things here, and it is a lot of fun. We'll catch you next video. Take care.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see the Conservatives' approach to partisan politics and to personal attacks. The reality is, when we stood with the 80 to 90% of Canadians who chose to get vaccinated, they called us divisive. When we chose to stand with women across this country who want to control their own bodies, they called us divisive. When we stand with the 2 LGBTQI+ kids who are being discriminated against in schools across this country, they call us divisive, Mr. Speaker.